Thank you, Secretary for State, Secretary of State. I always get my ofs and fors round the wrong way. That was, touching. So, welcome to the party. This is an exciting moment, not just for me, not just for the team who are all here, who managed it and delivered it, but for all of us. And it needs to be a celebration. This 10 years has been climbing mountains, it's been overcoming barriers, and I'm not the only one to bear the scars. Many of us do. The scars of being told we weren't up to peer review. No, we do expert review. We have patients and frontline people saying, is it worth it? Shall we go there? It has been difficult. We have fought on every street corner, as Russell and I are apt to say. But it's right, because look what you have all made happen. So I thought it might be fun just to go back over that 10 years, and there would be a number of ways of doing it. But let's start with what Russell and I said to the government back 11 years ago, when we wanted to change it. We told them, and they bought, and ever since they have, that they needed to commit to this. They needed research because actually that's how you get the evidence, as Jeremy said, to improve care. We believed, and now there's quite a bit of evidence to show it, that quality of care improved not only from the evidence, but alongside the process of doing research. We also, I think arguably, we're the first in the country to think about the economic issues and why we should be funding research and how we needed to anchor our life sciences industries here and work with industry. I haven't forgotten, can any of us forget, some of those early meetings where what I was doing was standing on the platform and saying, you want the smartest to do what you want, then deliver what government wants, which is a partnership with industry, a respectful one. And they will play their part, they will pay their part. And steadily, we have come together so that we have a rich tapestry of industry research, industry contracted research, industry partnership research, and then our own research. And we need it all. And that's why it's about not only increasing health in its broadest sense, now I've become a public health doctor, well, I think I have, and wealth. So we were extraordinarily lucky at the beginning. We had, as a minister, Patricia Hewitt, who had been the Minister for Science, so she got it, and the Minister for Women, so she wanted to help. And she said, go and consult. So I remember being on a boat, actually, in the Whitsunday Islands in Australia when Russell rang me up with an Australian accent, which doesn't normally come over so strong, but just to make me feel comfortable, when we went out for consultation on the new strategy. And even then, people didn't believe it could happen, and it was clear that we hadn't framed it as openly as we meant to, so we changed it. We actually have a set of slides showing how we listened to the consultation, how we changed it to be what was needed. And we came out with the new government strategy following that consultation at the beginning of 2006 to go live with NIHR April the 1st, 2006. And in that document that many contributed to, piles of workshops, thanks particularly to RAND Europe, who helped us with some of the facilitation, and Ashridge, because we got so many people to talk to us about it. In that, it showed the barriers. I don't need to rehearse them. We've got rid of most of them, not all of them, but we've really done a lot around clinician and managerial and scientific, non-clinical development and training. We've sorted the historical allocations and moved to competition so people get it wherever they are when they need it. We've changed, and Russell has done particularly strong work on this with Hefke and others, the view that the sort of research we were funding, clinical and applied, was second rate and second class, and we've done much more to get more patients into research and look at the systems, and I'll come back to those. And this is where we started. An historical allocation to trusts, the so-called Collier funding. I don't think Tony Collier ever believed we'd end up here. And a national research programme of 150 million that was put out through a number of programmes. So it was a paltry 650 million. And we felt that only the 150 million, could we argue, was focused on actual patients in the public, looked after in the NHS, though of course academia leads it. The rest of it had become, as Russell described it, the creosote in hospitals. And it wasn't being scraped out and reapplied, it was just propping things up. And no one could really tell us what or how. So, together, all of us, I can remember sitting on a beach in Barbados with Alan Jackson discussing this with the slides, let alone various ones of you in breakfast around London. The expression in the family was I breakfasting for my country? Was I dining for my nation? As I went round trying things out with people, we came up with the health research system, which you all know and I hope love. The concept being we have an NHS system, you overlay and interdigitate the health research system. And thank you, you've made it happen. So let's just look at what you made happen in very outline terms. Well, and Tom Wally's here and other people who've done the sterling work on the clinical trials and HTA programme. Just look at what the number of trials we were funding when we started. And then that we put in as part of NIHR, responsive, researcher-led, and where it's got to. And clearly, it was always going to level off. It's a pity to see the levelling and plateauing. I'm happy with a plateau. I would be unhappy if it fell down. And the examples, well, I don't have to talk through the first example because you can tell I didn't write the Secretary of State's speech. Not only would I not have said some of the lovely things he did say, but I wouldn't have given us both the same example. Ian Roberts should be pleased as he led it. But let me give you another example, this which is very recent and has just won the BMJ Research Award of the Year only last week. And it's the bronchiolitis of infancy discharge study, just showing how you can use a lower level of supplemented oxygen, and it's safe, effective, and actually the children were out, the babies were out of hospital earlier. So we've been having a massive impact. And this is one of the areas I'm particularly proud of, how we've been bringing in young people, plenty of women there, not just medics, dietitian, nurse, physio, all sorts of people, and developing them, giving them the opportunity to reach for the stars, to make a difference, not just to their careers, but actually to the evidence base for better services and to the leadership of health research going forward. It will never be the same again, not only because of NIHR, but look in this room at the leadership you all are and the contribution you've made. No one will gainsay that. Who thought 10 years ago we'd get the Secretary of State standing up here, proud as punch with what we've all done? And he has. And these are just wonderful people. I suppose I could use this as a moment to talk about Athena Swan. Ha ha. We imposed that. I imposed it. 5 years ago, in August. The true story is I sat there very embarrassed, listening to the teams of researchers with our international panel, and the NHS responses about what are you doing to develop women in science were kind of okay. and the medical schools were frankly embarrassing. And I stewed on this, and eventually, in the middle of the week after, I said to Russell, I think we've got to do something about it. I want to send this letter. And Russell read it, and he said, this would be a very brave thing to do. That's what you say to ministers when, as if you've watched Yes Minister, you know you probably shouldn't. And I said, yes, but I think we have to. And he said, yeah. It's a good idea, really. So I asked him to improve the letter because he's much better at writing than I am. He did, and I sent it out. He then said to me two things that I will never forget. He said, the first was, that may well be your footprint in the sand. It's so important. And the second was, and you didn't get ministerial permission. So I said, usual me, oh shit. And we worked out what we'd do, that we would, the following year, give an update to the minister of where it was all was, so the minister could say, fantastic, and then it became ministerial policy. And we never let on in that year that it wasn't supported by the ministers, which was an awfully good thing considering the rude letters I had, the rude phone calls and meetings, that it couldn't be done, it shouldn't be done, and I'd gone bonkers. And just talking to colleagues before this meeting and around the country, it has changed our medical schools, and for the better. Personally, I don't think we'll end up with 50% women. I don't want 50% women. I want the best people to get the jobs. But I want the women to feel they're welcome and that the opportunities are there. And that is happening. And blooming heck, it's rippling. So Southampton's applied for a silver for the whole university. A woman in physics in Scotland told me it was impacting there. It has been an amazing journey over this 5 years, and I'm proud of how, in the end, the medical schools responded. Pity it took them a while to get there, but, you know. So, looking at delivery, take our BRCs and BRUs, and yes, I know you're all going to bed late because you're filling in your applications for those that are shortlisted. Please work hard. We do want to fund you. So, and the international panel rolls into town in July, and there's a significant overlap, so they know what they're doing. It'll be good. Just look at that left-hand one, what we give through these, and then the blue one of the total leverage. You can look at how it breaks down on the other side. But I was talking to a colleague yesterday who does very important work, and Andrew Pollard, who's a vaccinologist in Oxford, and he has a group of about 200. And I said, how much does the BRC fund? And he waxed lyrical. It only funds 5, but they're long-term, they're senior, it allows us to write the grants, it allows us to think. We couldn't have built this without it. Let me tell you, a lot of our vaccine programmes, not just for Ebola, he played a big part, and thank you to the research network as well for that, but a lot of our vaccine policies in this country are based on work coming out of that team. It contributes. It's just wonderful. And at one point, early in the autumn of, I have to think where we are, 2014, when Ebola was raging in West Africa, thanks to Andrew Pollard and other colleagues in Oxford, we had more people vaccinated in this country against Ebola in trials than there were vaccinated around the rest of the world put together. It was wonderful getting in hundreds of children one weekend to be vaccinated, what could be done and how it could be done. And that's an example of responsiveness and how the different parts of NIHR have played together to make it greater than the sum of the parts, how it can respond. Think back to the 2009-10 pandemic, how prior to the HRA, but the system responded with ethics support overnight in 24 hours and opinions and advice, the networks playing in, the sleeping contracts activated for research. The different parts of NIHR delivering together in a time of need to save lives. It's wonderful. And that takes me to the CRN. It is just impressive how we started the managed clinical research networks. I got a lot of stick for calling previous networks Tea and Becky clubs. I think they were Tea and Becky clubs. But these are managed for delivery, because it isn't ethical to take too long to deliver a trial. That's not fair on patients. They need to be recruited and an answer which is then fed back. And this is impressive. You might say, so why did it fall off a bit and then come back a bit? Well, of course, with personalised medicine coming, some of the trials are smaller, but much more complex. And so the numbers may come down a bit, but that doesn't mean that the complexity, the patient interactions and everything isn't going steadily up. A fact that we have to keep explaining to ministers who would like to see lines going like that so that they can claim the delivery, which is fine if that keeps the money coming and we can do what needs doing. I thought I'd pick up on the Health Research Authority, which we were delighted when the Academy of Medical Sciences took our suggestion and recommended it back to government so that we could set it up. They're doing a fantastic job. Jonathan Montgomery is here. Janet Wisely I haven't seen, but I hope is here. I mean, prior to the NIHR, we had very variable research ethics times. Janet was busy trying to sort it, had got, I think, at that stage to one form for the nation, but some took more than a year. And then we got to this single research ethics committee approval with a 60-day target. But now, look at where we are. Isn't that impressive? Final decision within 40 calendar days, and over 90% of those for proportionate review getting a decision in 14 days. It is a massive turnaround. Equally impressive, though not yet where it needs to be, is the permissions in the NHS and the management in the NHS. After all, it's unethical not to do the study if there's equipoise. It is ethical to make research happen, to deliver the results so that patients get better care. And when we started doing metrics and looking at it, hospitals were very varied. They seemed to depend on the level of seniority and risk-taking appetite of the research manager and director in the trust. And we've done a lot of work with them and with what I call my Chief Executives of Hospitals Trusts Club to try and get them focusing on this, focusing on training the staff to give the staff the support they need. And it's having an impact. Still a way to go. I want that to be 99%, but we're getting there. Other things that have been going on and delivered. Alex Markham, who's chairing this afternoon, chaired a major piece of work around the clinical practice research data link, now held by MHRA, but we were responsible for developing a lot of this and then joining it to GPRD. And it's got nearly 80% of English patients' health records in it. And it is really impressive how it has brought all this data together at a time when we know that data needs sharing. We know big data is one of the ways forward, yet how can you do it safely? And they do it. And look at the number of studies that are happening. So, it's a pretty impressive delivery record you have all managed, and I can't thank you enough. I think that careers are built not on strategies and visions, they're built on making things happen, on the delivery. And we've built a lot of careers of a lot of people, and we've changed the lives of millions more through the evidence. I couldn't find what I wanted to show you how the publications for health and clinical research have been going up. You can tell Russell's left. I miss him every day because I know he would have been able to find it. But health and biomedicine and our very important bits of applied research are a significant bit of our publication record internationally. And it is wonderful how the number have gone up, but most importantly, the quality and the impact. And that's what we're thrilled about. And it's not really surprising, because if you look at these data from the Medical Schools Council, the heads of medical schools coming together, you can see that once NIHR was established, if you look at that top line, we have stabilised the decline in academic numbers and what was happening. This decade has been an extraordinary decade to be a clinical academic. The young people here, the professors and others, will not remember what it was like pre-NIHR, BN, perhaps I should call it, before the national effort. I hope we never see an after the NIHR. I hope it's always during, because this is important to our nation, our competitiveness, our pride, and our patience. We have to go on doing it. And I just wanted to show you a couple of other things. You've seen the number of clinical trials go up, and the funding is that blue line. But you can see how, until this year, the money has steadily been going up. And look at the trajectory of what we managed. And you can see 2006, when we started, and how it steadily rose. You can then see the spending review of 2010 coming in the red. And then I think that Russell and I, with the team who did a grand job, have delivered an amazing gift, dowry to Chris, because the Research Council's got flat cash in the spending review. We got flat cash. They got some ODA, official development assistance, otherwise known as ODA, for global health. And we got, from the Treasury, a massive wallop. And isn't it great? We've got a leader who knows much more than I do and others do about how best to handle that, to spend it to the best effect. So it's been a journey with many people playing a role. I don't think we could have got there without everyone. There are people I couldn't put on here. I want to record my thanks particularly again to Russell. It has been a very special partnership between us that has done our part of this, and the team have played in. But we've had gladiators out there, and they know who they are. One very dear to my heart who once said something to me, and I said, "You're always difficult. I like it when people are difficult, because then I have to think about it. We need to get this right." We've had a wonderful management team, not only in the department, but actually in all the coordinating centres. Without you, this wouldn't have happened. But the researchers, actually, are what make it really work well. And thank you to the patients. We do it for the patients and our public. We do it with the patients, and I was very pleased that that was picked up earlier on about the patient viewpoint, the patient endpoints, because it matters to us. Despite an illustrious history pre-NIHR and then the 10 years of NIHR showing the world how to do it with patients, I'm shocked that more research funders have not followed our lead, and more research funders are not putting the patients at the centre. But overall, the important thing is we did it together, the people in this room. And so while I'm not given to celebrating, because I've usually moved on to the next thing, to trying to climb the next mountain and make it happen, it is an appropriate time at 10 years to celebrate, and today's about that, and also to say goodbye. Not quite goodbye. Goodbye to Russell. I'm clearly staying as Chief Medical Officer, but it's over and out. It's over to Chris. It's over to Louise. And we know you can do it. So we look forward to watching what you do, to supporting what you do, and all of you to make it a success. So my final thing I want to say is you will be able to pick up a document that Rand Europe have done for us, and this we've commissioned specially for this meeting. It's a report on the first 10 years of NIHR, and it's a fabulous report summarising impacts and benefits for clinical research, applied research, social care, and the research infrastructure. So it's there for you to enjoy, to treasure. It's there for you to take back and give to your chief execs and say, hey, look, we're doing something worthwhile. Look at the impact. Please use it and enjoy it. But finally, I do want to congratulate you all and say thank you again. Thank you to you.